Welcome, everybody. If I could have your attention, please. I'll go through a couple quick items, and then we can enjoy our lunch. Welcome to the 50th anniversary of the Action for Beauty Council in Walnut Creek. And I want to first of all thank our sponsors, John Kumbelich, the Heritage Point, and Trellis by Pulte Homes. And as you can see, Hall Equities Group is our premium sponsor for today's event. I'd like to introduce our jury members. Scott Coates of Meeks Coates in Eaton, San Francisco Architects. Bill Wood, AIA Architect in Danville. Marilyn Weiss, our own Design Review Commission member. And Joseph Gorney, Design Review Commission member, Walnut Creek Architect. And we have a number of special guests today I'd like to quickly recognize. We have our Mayor, Luella Haskew. Where are you, Luella? There she is. Nice top. And Mayor Pro Tem Rich Carlson. Council Member Cindy Silva. Our City Manager Ken Nordoff. It all ends up with Ken. And our BART Director, former Mayor Gail Murray. Hi, Gail. And then Design Review Commissioners Joseph Gorney, Phil Volkman, and Marilyn Weiss are with us today. And our current and former Transportation Commissioners Ken Strongman, and a current candidate for Walnut Creek City Council, if I'm allowed to say that, Kevin Wilk. We have former mayors, Charlie Abrams, Sue Rainey, Gwen Regalia, and Bob Schroeder. And our retired state senator, Dick Rainey. I'd like to read a little history of the Action for Beauty Council. It's been my honor to be chairing this event for the last 34 years. I was 32 when I started this thing. I guess. I just haven't ticked off too many people. Yeah. And if you don't know Cindy Silva, she's kind of like the Hillary Clinton of this group. She is well prepared. Everything is scripted, and she makes it so I can't go too off track. So, the 20 years after the end of World War II were seminal years in Walnut Creek's history. With the post-World War II housing boom, Walnut Creek's walnut and fruit orchards were rapidly changing to housing subdivisions. In 1951, Broadway Plaza rose at the corner of the two highways, Highway 21 Main Street and Highway 24, which is Mount Diablo Boulevard. Having grown up here from the early 50s on, I can remember all the way you'd go through the old tunnel and you'd wind through Orinda and down through Lafayette and you'd end up on Main Street. You'd turn left, Main Street would turn into Contra Costa, and I remember in my dad's old 49 Chevy, we'd have to wait at the pier in Martinez to get the ferry to Bernicia. Kaiser Hospital and John Muir Hospital were built during that time. Parks were built. Lindsay Museum opened, and art lovers converted the old Walnut Growers Processing Warehouse to the community theater at that time. Our population quadrupled from 1950 to 1960, and then again from 1960 to 1970. Walnut Creek was cementing its status as a regional hub. The change created a strong desire among residents and community leaders to find and preserve ways for their lifestyle and the environment. In 1966, in response to these changes, a small group of community members founded the Walnut Creek Action for Beauty Council with the express purpose to study and interpret city needs, to recommend a planned system of projects, and to advocate for city beautification programs. Former Mayor Robert Schroeder was among the founders of Action for Beauty, along with Evelyn Bell and Virginia Ramelli. One of their first initiatives was a first-of-its-kind conference called Action for Apathy. That brought outstanding leaders in community beautification and development to Walnut Creek. The honorary chair of the conference was Mrs. Edmund Brown, the wife of then Governor Edmund Brown, Pat Brown, as he was called. And in 1967, the Action for Beauty and the Walnut Creek Chamber of Commerce co-sponsored a cleanup, fix-up, paint-up campaign, resulting in improvements to many business fronts and the cleanup of homes and landscaping. Over the years, the work of the Action for Beauty Council has led to the formation of both the city's Design Review Commission, you can blame them, and the City Tree Committee to the development and adoption of the City Tree Preservation Ordinance and the Billboard Ordinance. I can joke about Design Review because I was on it for a long time. The symbol of the Action for Beauty Council is the Walnut Queen chrysanthemum, which is also Walnut Creek's city flower. The Action for Beauty annual awards luncheon is held the fall of each year to recognize new and remodeled buildings so as to encourage good design, quality development, and landscaping. The council presents this chrysanthemum award to the one project that stands above the others for outstanding architecture and landscaping. Among the first award winners was the former Water District Pump House, and that still stands at the corner of Mount Diablo Boulevard and Mount Pisgah, which was redeveloped by Wayne Affleck, who also developed Quail Court. That office during the early mid-'70s was actually Jerry Leving's start in this town with a young draftsman, Carl Campos, and I worked with them for many years of that three-person firm until you've seen what they've grown into now. We're delighted today that former Mayor Robert Schroeder and Virginia Ramelli are with us, two of the original founders of Action for Beauty Council. So please join me in the acknowledgement of their vision. Thanking them, of course, for their tireless effort to ensure that Walnut Creek remains a beautiful city as it grows and changes. And on a personal note, Bob, we've enjoyed working with you over the years, sir. We tried to think of an appropriate way to thank you for your contributions to our city council and the community. However, we kind of came up blank. After all, what do you give a guy who's got a bridge named after him? We'll take a short break now. Finish your salads, and then we'll start our program. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, in a moment we're going to pick up our program here where we left off and meet our guest speaker for the day. Before I do that, I wanted to remind, if any of you do not have a little coaster memento, an inch glass memento, we've got extras here for you, all right? And also, we are going to be looking for additional members for the Action for Beauty Council. We meet about every 2 months. We have a wonderful time, a lot of fun, and I think our stipends is going up to about $80,000 a year now for our... No, but you may have to pick up a breakfast or two. As we're going on here, it is my pleasure. This is a gentleman who needs no introduction. They tried to send the bio, but my computer can't take that many megs. So I'm going to let Art Gensler talk a little bit about his history and more particularly what he has observed over the years in suburban community growth, such as Walnut Creek. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Art Gensler. As Art's coming up, Art first donated some time to us in 1982, I believe. I had just been on this committee, and as a young 32-year-old, I didn't know anything about, you can't just pick up a phone and call the most famous architect in the world. But he said yes. And here we are almost 35 years later, and I just sent out an email for the heck of it, and he said yes again. So, without further ado, our counselor.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be here. This became sort of my second home in California because my mom and dad, I grew up in the East Coast, and Dad worked in New York, and Mom. And when the day he was 65, a truck came up, picked up all our stuff, and took it to Sarasota, Florida. And they were there, and they would come to see my wife and me and our 3 children. And we tried to entertain them for 2 weeks. And they'd live with us, and we'd entertain them. And one day my father said, I saw this place I want to go see. And he was particular about everything he did in terms of, he could tell you, how much he spent on gum for a year. He kept notes that were ridiculous. Anyway, so he came back, and I'd never seen him so excited. We're going to move to this place called Rushmore in Walnut Creek. Oh my God, it's fantastic, right? And they had a model, and there's a building, and it's going to be right on the green, and it's terrific. And I said, Dad, no, we're moving. I said, okay. And by God, they moved, and they lived there for 25 years and had the most wonderful time. And it gave me a chance to get to understand Walnut Creek a little, because we came at least once a month and had dinner in all the restaurants in town. And one of the beauties I always thought of Rushmore was the fact that there's no retail, there's no restaurants or anything, and it really encourages those people to get out and be part of the business community, the opportunities that are here. And so I've really gotten to look at Walnut Creek, but when my father died 17 years ago, I'm not too good at numbers, but my assistant's been with me 29 years, and she's the keeper of all knowledge. And I said to her yesterday, when did my father die? I don't remember. And she said, 17 years ago. And I said, well, that's the last time I've been in Walnut Creek. So I came out a few days ago, and I drove around because I wanted to at least see what was going on. And I drove around for about an hour and a half, and then I came out early this morning and drove around some more because I realized I hadn't seen parts of the town I wanted to take a look at. But first, let me just say how impressed I am with what you've accomplished. My first reaction and my reaction today is the same. You can't believe how green this town is. The trees that you have put on, the street trees, are just spectacular, and congratulations. It's a really, for all of you who worked on that kind of program, it really is what strikes you as you come out. And I live in Tiburon in Marin, but I spend an awful lot of time in San Francisco, and San Francisco has a pretty good street program, but you just bury us in terms of San Francisco. And they got dinky little trees. You got big things all over the place. It's really quite impressive and quite wonderful. And so congratulations. I think the other thing is the density of what you brought into town is amazing. The amount of shops, the quality of retail in this town, and the quality of just the restaurants and the variety is far just amazing to me. I had no sense of what has transpired in the recent years, and somebody can maybe answer this question, but I looked up on Google yesterday, and it said there are 66,000 people in Walnut Creek, but that was 2 years ago. That was their latest number, and I don't know what the number is now, but you must be supporting an enormous area with the variety and the amount of retail and other services that you provide. And I think that's good. I think the variety of architecture that you have is good. And I'm also impressed with how much housing that you're beginning to bring into town. And I want to come back to that, but I want to come back in a slightly different way. There's a phenomena going on in this part of the Bay Area that is interesting for me, being heavily focused on San Francisco, where we have a major office in our central office. for all of our back of the house stuff in HR and accounting and technology and all of a sudden we had an office in Pleasanton. Why we had it in Pleasanton, I still to this day don't know why we had an office there, and we were in Bishop Ranch it was a good place to be, and one of my partners said, I want to do an office in the East Bay, and so when somebody asks, we usually say yes if they're committed, and so she ran an office there for probably 15, 20 years. And one day she said, I want to move to Oakland. And so I said, oh, what do you want to move to Oakland for? Well, I just think we can do more work and do a lot of stuff. So we ended up looking for space. The only space we could find that we liked was the top floor of a high-rise, and got ceilings as high as this room. It was kind of spectacular. And it was about 25,000 foot space, and we needed about 15 or 18, so we took that, and then all of a sudden we weren't going to take the other part of the floor. And all of a sudden, all the people in the back office of Gensler in San Francisco, well, I live in the East Bay, why don't we move over to Oakland? And couldn't we just move us over there? And so all of a sudden I was there the other day, and they've got 50 people from the San Francisco office now in the Oakland office. But the reason I bring that up is because nobody in the Bay Area is not unaware of the costs of living for especially young people in the Bay Area, and they're getting pushed out by the tech companies. And although Gensler pays pretty well as a firm, we don't pay at the level of some of the tech companies. And so our people are really struggling finding places to live and work. I mean, to live, and they can work in the city, but they like to work closer. So that's why they all said, let's go to Oakland, because I can buy or rent a place in the East Bay someplace a heck of a lot cheaper than in San Francisco. Well, I think that trend is expanding and going to continue. And my guess is that, and one of the things that is kind of interesting to me, and maybe I haven't discussed this with anybody, but it does interest me that a lot of the major companies, we haven't done many projects in Walnut Creek. We've done some projects, but not a huge amount. But we do all these projects in Pleasanton, and they got BART, but you got a closer BART, and they got a lot of open space, but maybe you can figure out how to. But it would be nice to see some of those industry employers, closer to downtown, so people could walk there or ride a bike. And I do want to not forget that. One of the shockers to me is I didn't see a bike the entire time. I hear they're on the bike trails, but I didn't see one bike in town. And if you go to San Francisco now, you get run over by bikes. But what's happening is that this generation of millennium, they don't want a car. They'll use Uber, they'll use a bike, and then these hourly rental bikes that you have now that this company puts around all over the country. You can just put a credit card in, take a bike for 2 hours, and drop it the other where you're leaving, so you don't have to bring it back where you got it. And Walnut Creek seems to be a marvelous place where you could just bike around and walk around and use Uber or Lyft or whatever, and get rid of cars. And so I want to make a suggestion to you. The suggestion is, if you ever build another parking garage, and I was frankly surprised how many parking garages there are, that you insist that the developer make the floor-to-floor 10 feet instead of 8'6". And the reason is, and they do it with flat floors rather than park on ramps, because my guess is that in the next 20 years, we'll have a heck of a lot less cars than we have today parking around. And what I've been working on and seen some examples of is converting parking garages to residential. And it really works. And it's amazing how it works, and especially micro-residential, where you can literally, you can do it almost like a small RV vehicle where you just back it in and there it is, and you live in it. But they're building some wonderful micro units, and if you're interested, there's a phenomenal college in Savannah, Georgia that has blown my mind, and they have campuses now all over the world. But they took me to one that they have in Atlanta, and they've built 3 units. And if you look under SCAD, SCAD pad, they built 3 units where the kids were living, and they tried it out, and it's fantastic. I mean, it really is amazing what you can do. And I think that this idea of housing for young starter kids, and that's what they need a place. And one of the things that I'm on the board of CCA, a college, art college that has campuses in Oakland and in San Francisco. And one of the problems we have is we don't have a lot of our own housing, and the kids are dying. So we're starting to build our own housing, or with developers building housing, and we're putting it these micro units. And I think that that's a direction that this country is going to have to go to cover the blend of needs of people. And I think Walnut Creek would be a wonderful place to do that, and at least would, instead of having empty parking garages, this would be one way to at least figure out another way to change what that garage might be. I use these cards because I can't remember anything, but yeah, I've covered most of the things I was going to do. I'm not done. I got a whole more left. I'm not done. I want to talk a little bit more about the transportation situation. I believe it or not, I'm fairly old, and I was the guy who was at 25 set up the standards for the BART system. My boss died quickly, and there was nobody standing in line, and so I ended up setting all the standards for the BART system. And it's 50 years old, and it's struggling, as we know right now, and we need to invest money in it. But we're going to have to, as a country and as a community, invest more in public transportation and shared rides and all sorts of different approaches, because I think that the standard car, I was interested, Tesla said yesterday they're going to put self-driving car capability in all the cars they produce from now on. Now, I still don't understand how it works. It seems impossible to me that it works, but Google's been driving cars all over the U.S. for a long time, and they've had one accident, and it was a bad one. But the point is, there's a heck of a lot of other accidents with people behind the wheel, more than certainly what those cars have had. So the system is coming, and it will happen, and I think we need to address that. What the difference is when things change, where you can take the car and send it to a garage, or you don't have to park it downtown. But I'd like to see this town grow, have more activity at night. And as I see, there's lots of housing under construction in the periphery of the town, but none right in the center, and maybe that'll happen. I want to talk a little bit about the aesthetics of architecture. We're a firm that has no style. We're not trying to sell the look of certain look that I think is the right look, because I don't think there is a single right look or approach to any project. It's really being appropriate to the context, and whether it's color or material or form or shape or attitude. But I think, and in a sense, you've built in variety into the designs that I see, and I'm sure you've got, as you say, a design review board. I'll give you an example of the design review board, not the way to work. My wife was on the Tiburon design review board, and one of the houses was built right practically in the center of town. We were very close to downtown Tiburon, if you know that. He was building a house, and this person happened to be the largest painting contractor in the Bay Area. And the design review board decided that the color he wanted to paint the house wasn't the appropriate color. So they told him to paint this other color because that was much better. So I painted the house the color they wanted, and he got all his permits, and then the next day the painters moved in and repainted it the color he wanted. It was a lovely lesson for my wife to learn. She doesn't learn anything from me, but so I think that creating great communities, things need to look good, and they are responsible and look like they fit into the community, and that's terrific. But we need the affordable options. We need more walkabout capability and sidewalk capability, and transportation is really going to be a thing. And then the final thing, and I don't want you to forget, is the support your schools. If communities don't have great schools, we don't have great communities. And so everything that you do, in my opinion, should be, I speak this way because I have 10 grandchildren. And I luckily, the good news is most of them have gone through schools and they're well out, but I still got a bunch still going. And I'd like to make sure that they live and go to schools that really make a sense. And frankly, we need brighter kids in this country right now. One of the most exciting things that our firm just won some of you may have heard this, is Steve Jobs' wife put up $50 million for 5 teams to win $10 million apiece for called the XQ program. And it's to redesign and rethink the high school of the future. And what is a high school in the digital age? What is a real high school all about? And she put up $50 million. And in the end, 700 teams put in proposals for that. And she was so excited with the proposals that she added another 50 million, so there were 10 teams at $10 million apiece. And we were fortunate enough to win 2 of them out of the 10. And my granddaughter, who I didn't know was doing this, was and works in our LA office, was the leader of the group in LA, and they're trying to deal with a situation in LA of homelessness, and she's trying to figure out how to do a high school of the future for homeless people, where they're moving around. So they're thinking of maybe a high school on wheels so they can follow the people where they go. And I mean, it's more complicated than I can figure out, but anyway, the thing is there's some really exciting things happening in education, and schools will change. And one of the pleas that I make at both the university level and at the undergraduate level is that we have got to start using our facilities at least 12 months a year. Now they're used 9 months and stand vacant. And the second thing is that the rate of change is so rapid that none of us can think that when we graduate from either high school or college, we've got all the knowledge we'll ever need. We're going to have to learn how to re-educate ourselves. And I think that's first a challenge, but it's also a very exciting opportunity. So there's a lot going to have to happen in the school world where it's used, instead of 6 hours a day, it's used 10 or 11 hours a day and used 12 months a year, not 9 months a year, because we can't afford to just keep building schools. I was at a board meeting yesterday, and they're charging $45,000 a year, and how many people can afford $45,000 a year for putting a child through college? And this, it's just not working. And the schools keep saying, well, our costs go up, so we got to raise the tuition 4% a year. I don't know why the education world thinks they can raise 4% a year. And I'm in business and can't raise my prices at all. I don't know, but they seem to be able to do it. And I'm sure you can't raise your prices either. So I think that's another area but they all work together, and one without the other isn't a great community. And what you've done, you've taken, and I'm proud of you, the side of good work. I want to close with something I was reading the other day, and I thought it was amazing. There's a fantastic thinker about urbanism in cities, Jane Jacobs, who was just an amazing thinker. And if I can find it, I want to read it, which I don't like to do, but she said, and I quote, "A city or neighborhood or block cannot succeed without diversity. Diversity, commercial use and residential use, racial, societal diversity, diversity of transportation, and diversity of public and private support." And I think what I see in Walnut Creek is the diversity of retail and restaurants and other shops and services. And I think that's really, you should be congratulated for doing that. So thank you very much for letting me share my ideas and thoughts with you, and thank you for the nice lunch. And I'm looking forward to seeing about the awards. Thank you.
All right, thank you very, very much. That's awesome. He's so tall, I got to readjust the microphone. There we go. And now on to an exciting part of the program we've been waiting for all day. And I'd like to get our jury members up here. And I'd like to introduce Scott Coates, and Scott will kick things off, beginning with the residential category.
Thanks, Terry, and thanks again to everyone for coming. I'd like to start by paraphrasing one of our usual juror members, Tom Bassett, who used to say, we should remember that this isn't a fashion show, that we're not here to judge projects on their superficial qualities, that this is about home. And something from Mr. Gensler's interview in Walnut Creek magazine caught my eye about this. Art said, buildings don't add value to a community by looking wonderful. They must also work to add value to the people who live and work in them. So that's what we like to think we're about. So with that, we'll go to the nominees for the best single-family residential construction during the last year. We had 4. First one is 2275 and 2299 Overlook Drive by Ryder Homes. And the next, Amberwood Court by Castle Companies. And then Crowley Place by Byron Crowley. And then Silver Trail in Walnut Creek by Taylor Morrison of California. And the 2016 award goes to Crowley Place. So we liked a lot of things about this project. It's fairly dense. There are 6 buildings on the lot, I think, and it's a small lot. They're close together, but it has a really welcoming feel to it, really inviting. The homes make you want to go in. The detailing is nice. There's a bunch of interesting development of the facades that kind of keep things interesting, and treatment of the materials. We like the wood detailing. We like the fact that the material palette was fairly simple, and of course the landscaping is masterful. So I believe that Phil Volkman will be accepting the award, and is the developer here as well?
I can have four or five words. I usually try to keep my sentences down to 15, so I'll count them. I'm very proud of this project. Infill projects are difficult. Working with developers is never easy. Everything is budget driven. This project was originally conceived for a different developer. During the recession, it was put on hold. A new developer came in, Crowley, who built the project out. We were happy to see it finished. I want to thank my staff. We have 3 people, small firm. So Rich and Tim, who are here. And I want to thank the city. I love doing what I do. I've been an architect for a long time, not as long as Mr. Gensler over there. But I love it. And I'm on the Design Review Commission. I love the community. I live here. My whole world is kind of this one little 1 mile radius. And I think what Arthur Gensler said is exactly where the city's vision is moving towards. So thank you again.
And the next category is the multifamily residential category. And Bill, is that yours?
The jury had a lot of fun this year going around to all the different multifamily projects. It was quite an experience. If any of you have had any sense of going into these new residential urban environments that they have now downtown, it's amazing on not only what they're getting for the price for your 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom studios, but it's just amazing the quality that you're getting as well is the highest quality, especially downtown Walnut Creek. But there are 4 nominees for Best Multifamily Residential Project this year. There's 1756 Cole by Lennox Homes, Agora at South Main by Essex and Alamo LLC, and the Arroyo at 1250 Arroyo Way Residences, and they're by Hall Equities Group, they're also from in Walnut Creek. Cente Walnut Creek by Mill Creek Residential Trust, and Cente is located at 1960 North Main. There are 4 great projects that we had a hard time making a decision on which one was going to be getting the award this year. And the award goes to 1756 Cole. That's great. Lennox Home. This was the only multifamily project that actually was pretty much hidden from view. The other three projects, which were on Main Street and also down on Arroyo Way, were pretty well visible from downtown. But the 1756 Cole was a great detailing. It was a lot of different great uses of materials. The insides were well done, so that's why we chose to give a award to the Lennox Homes for 1756 Cole. So if the representatives from Lennox Homes are here, we'd love to give you your award. I'd like to say a few words. Congratulations. Thank you.
We're very honored and surprised. Our little projects usually don't get recognized. I've said this at many of the design review hearings that we've been to recently. This project took 10 years to complete from beginning to end, and I was kind of laughing tonight. I was looking at every table, and someone here at every table had a hand in this project. So honestly, it's really, that's the mark of Walnut Creek, is that you have this room is your collaboration. So from Cindy to Sandra was there at the beginning, and Ethan, and I know I'm missing a bunch of people, but honestly, we can't take a lot of credit for this, but this is the future. Walnut Creek, I think, is the future. That's what Mr. Gensler, I think, was alluding to, is this is the model for cities across the country. Also, just our team here, my father-in-law, Kurt Bloomstrand, Walt McInerney, our architect, Randy Harris, and Justin Bergamini, who built it, this Ferrari of a building, or Tesla. So thank you all, and we appreciate it. All right.
The next nominees are going to be for retail signage, and I'd like to introduce Joseph Gorney.
Hi. It's interesting being on Design Review Commission because we spend a lot of time on signs. I was really surprised how much we spend and how many times we have sign subcommittee and how many signs come through DRC. So it's a really important part of Walnut Creek. You know, sometimes there's a program that's approved, and sometimes you know, there's always exceptions. Everybody's always asking for exceptions. And there's a lot of really good signs that are coming online right now, particularly at Broadway Plaza, some other places which were not done when we were doing our reviews. So right now we're looking at two nominees at this point, which is the Dunkin Donuts building and and Pizza My Heart. And the winner on this one is the Dunkin Donuts building. And everybody said to me, now why is that? It doesn't make any sense. And I said, but once in a while what we felt is that occasionally the signs drive the project. And this is one of those projects. And it's like, you know, as usual, they came in asking for the world. They wanted a giant sign on a stick that was spinning around and bright. And, you know, we had one discussion with them about some of the options, and the designer really yielded some good options on it, we thought. But what happened was that the signs kind of led to a program that I think is going to change the building and improve the complex. You know, just changing the colors on the fascia. They did this kind of a range of brown from light to dark that worked with their sign. And we're really hoping over time that the entire building kind of starts taking that in as new people do signage, and some of the older detailing on the building is going to be changed. This is going to follow through. And so it's a small project, fairly significant, but we believe that small improvements like that can really have a notable impact. And accepting the award is John Kumblevich on behalf of Matt Cabo. Is he here? Oh, good, perfect.
Before John Kumlich accepts this award, I want to make note of the fact that the Action for Beauty Council, one of their first projects was to create a tree preservation and billboard ordinance, because if you were to go down Main Street, you couldn't see the buildings through the billboards. So, John, and I didn't pay him to mispronounce your name this time. Okay.
Thanks,
That's my job.
Joe and Terry. We take no credit for being the architect or the owner or the designer. We just happen to be the firm that represents Dunkin on acquiring their real estate in the Bay Area, and I'm since Matt couldn't be here, and all of you are here, I just think he would want me to invite everybody over for a free donut tomorrow, so please show up at Dunkin.
That's funny. When I was a kid, we had a Dunkin Donuts on Route 35 in New Jersey, and used to go there all the time as a kid. The next presenter is going to be Marilyn Weiss on, I'm not even sure which one you're doing. Retail storefronts. Perfect.
I knew he was going to fix it. You always have to adjust that for me. I'm thrilled to be part of the Action for Beauty Council, and particularly thrilled to be one of the judges. I'm the only woman judge, and it's me and about 4 or 5 6-footers or more. It's quite something to follow these guys around and keep up with them each year, but I find it a real privilege. The next award is for the Broadway for the storefront projects, and we have had many to consider. Our 6 nominees for Best Retail Storefront are Fuego Tequila and Dragon's Pond, Gap, Lou & Grey, Lululemon Athletica, Madewell, and Tesla. And that is quite a group. It was not easy to pick because there were many, many beautiful projects. And because of that, we have 2 award winners today. And I will tell you a little bit about why we picked those 2. The first one would be Lululemon Athletica, and I'll tell you about that first. I did a little research on Lululemon and found out that they were founded in Vancouver in 1998, and now they are, as you all know, worldwide. The website tells us that Lululemon yoga is everything. I really agree with them. And that it's at the core of everything we do. They work to innovate technical athletic gear to build a community where everyone can work towards being their best self. Their emphasis is on apparel for yoga, running, training, and to quote them, for everything sweaty. Design innovation is really present there, both inside and out in the Broadway Plaza store. Their architecture and their materials and colors are exciting and show, I think, a true sort of love of life in the world. They have this magnificent tree that you can see, and you really should go stand there and look at it. And I think it really, for me, just sort of sparks the feeling of really a lot of good life and happy memories. And it is a great place to stroll by on Broadway Plaza Street. So it's my pleasure to present the ABC Award for Best Storefront to Lululemon Athletica. And do I have someone coming up from Lululemon? I didn't see them check in. No. So Terry will accept the award for Lululemon. How's that? Or we can, you know what? How about Broadway? Someone from Broadway Plaza come forward? How would that be? I'm sure there are plenty of people from Broadway Plaza. Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to say something? Do you want to say something? What? Do you want to say something? Sure. Okay, excellent. Excellent. Okay, we will move along then. Our other award for the best storefront was Tesla. So let me tell you a little bit about it. Tesla's website tells us that the last successful American car startup was founded 111 years ago. Can you imagine who that is? It was Ford. Tesla is now barely a decade old and is already a gigantic company and is adored by so many. As a matter of fact, Morgan Stanley calls the Tesla worldwide most important car company, and in 2014, a nationwide survey found that the Tesla Model S is the most loved automobile in America. They have done a beautiful job on their storefront. It's elegant. Go look at it. The pictures don't say it. It's striking, it's classic and classy, and I think they also add, in their own way, a beautiful look to the Broadway Plaza street. It's a wonderful blend of different kinds of architecture that all really speak to us. So it's my pleasure to present the Action for Beauty Award for the Best Storefront Design to Tesla. Is there someone here from Tesla? Then we will ask Broadway Plaza to come up again. There you go. Okay. To invite Bill Wood up again to give the next award.
I gotta adjust that. I can stoop down if you want. That's all right. We have two nominees for the large commercial renovation. As you can see, all the different commercial renovations in the city have been overwhelmed by many of the storefronts, Broadway Plaza as well. We have two nominees, and one is the Encina Grande, which is off of Ignacio Valley Road. Many of you have probably seen that center for over 40 years in its previous state. And the other is the renovation of Macy's in Broadway Plaza. The award goes to Encina Grande today. Yes. And it's by Regency Team for Regency Centers. And if they're here to get their award, I'd love to have them come up. I got to say that this center probably has more impact in the off Ignacio Valley Road. If you familiar with this complex from 40 years, they've done such a great job in variety, versatility in terms of the different shops and so forth. They've really taken a transformation of this center and really given that whole center, which was very tired, a great, redo. Congratulations. Thank you.
I think tired might be an understatement. I think Brian was saying it. He remembers what it looked like when it was built, and it looked just about the same about a year ago. So thank you to everyone for helping us. I don't think Regency Centers, as a grocery anchored shopping center, really expected to win an award like this, but we put a lot of time and effort into really looking at the authenticity of the design and transforming the center to fit the community and hopefully serve everyone's needs. So thank you.
I'd like to bring Marilyn Weiss back for the Landscape Design Award. Okay, thanks, Marilyn. Let me bring this back down again. There you go. That's fine.
So, the next award, we don't always give this, is for the Best Landscape Design, and for recognizing that landscape is a very key element of any project, and probably these days, most challenging aspect of most building is to how to meet all of the standards and how still to create a beautiful environment. And I'm sure for all of our landscape designers, it isn't easy. We had a number of nominees. One is 1500 Mount Diablo, BH Development. Take a look at that living wall. The Arroyo Residence by Hall Equities, and the Broadway Plaza by Macerich. The winner of the three, as I said, rather difficult, but the winner, and I'll tell you a little bit as to why, is the Arroyo Residences by Hall Equities and Camp and Camp Landscape Architects. The Arroyo Residences are designed to combine luxury and natural inspiration. They are a concrete construction which creates a peaceful environment surrounded by cascading waterfalls, landscape open spaces, and edible gardens. We often think of landscape and that which surrounds a property, or that which you can really see when you drive by it. But in the case of the Arroyo, I think the really, really special part about it is the interior landscaping, which is really the residences that live there have a great benefit from that variety of spaces that they can enjoy. It's very impressive inside. There are lush courtyards. They have a wonderful rooftop pool. They have an outdoor kitchen and area where they can even show movies outside. And I think it's just one of the best things that you can do is just to have a place to hang out like that, because we all work really hard and it's hard to have those places where we can relax. There are 6 stories of views of the Diablo Valley. And the courtyard, one of the most wonderful things that I found is this courtyard area where they have a complimentary coffee and espresso bar anytime you feel like hanging out. The Action for Beauty Council has been spurred for many years, and I cannot let this go without saying, by Terry Camp, who has been one of our guiding forces and wise additions that keep us online. And Terry has been doing this for 36 years of our 50 years, and I don't want to fail to really mention how much we appreciate your work. And so we are now going to award the Action for Beauty Council for Excellence in Landscape Design to the Hall Equities Group and to Terry Camp.
While Deb's coming up, Pam Winther, would you please come up here, our senior landscape architect who worked tirelessly on this project and help implement Mark Hall's vision, who really inspired the Zen garden approach for the courtyard. Pam?
On behalf of Hall, we want to say thanks very much. It does take a collaboration with the city, and everybody worked really hard on it. And we think landscaping is a really important component to and every bit as important as the architecture. And that's why we almost exclusively use Camp and Camp. So Pam.
Great commercial, thank you.
Well, I'm so proud to be a part of this project because I've been there, Terry and I have been there since day one, and Hall Equities had a vision, and we worked together to enact it, and design is never just 1 or 2 people. It takes a community, it takes everybody around us, provided inspiration. So I'm so happy to see it. We have images in our office, and it's so exciting to see this project, and it looks just like the renderings. So, we're really happy, and I hope everybody likes it. Thank you.
Come on up, Scott.
Occasionally, one project in town is so large and important that it stands alone for special recognition, and we have one this year. It's Broadway Plaza. After 3 years of construction, they celebrated their grand opening and reopening in September. And this has been such an important place in town, so important to the city in so many ways. As consumer spending drives the national economy, so it does in Walnut Creek. And I started reading a lot, and I found a lot has been written about this place. Martha Ross from Patch.com wrote, "The opening of one of America's first open-air shopping malls was the tipping point that shaped downtown and the city's identity." And it started construction in October of 50 and opened in 51. And at the opening, one of the Marx Brothers was there for entertainment. Unfortunately, it was Harper, so we're not left with any memorable words. So Broadway Walnut Creek was the working title, and it was the first of its kind shopping center. This now I'm quoting from Brad Roven-Paris' book, The History of Walnut Creek. With 1,500 parking spaces, Broadway Shopping Center will be recognized as one of the earliest examples of post-war automobile-oriented retail mall. In one broad stroke, the opening of the center changed the financial fortunes of a sleepy downtown that would one day be recognized as one of the top shopping districts in the nation. Its instant popularity and influence on downtown planning in neighboring cities solidify Walnut Creek's reputation as the crossroads and commercial vanguard of the East Bay. Then he had some interesting numbers too. Original development cost for the project was $3.5 million. I'm guessing a little more than that was spent recently. And the population of Walnut Creek then was 2,400, and now we're 64,000. And the amount in dollars, sales tax revenue, the year after the Broadway Plaza was built was $200,000, and now it's 100 times that. in the mid-'70s. We'll show some slides now of the development over the years. Here's the mid-'70s. Or is that 60s? Judged by the cars. Yeah, 60s. Yeah, and we'll just roll through these. In the mid-'70s, Gerald Ford came and spoke at Broadway Plaza at his re-election campaign, and he dedicated the Liberty Bell. In the 80s, there was a big renovation that did away with things like these internal parking lots and completely renovated the buildings. This was after they were around for about 30 years. And this is important, I think, to note about any institution or facility that wants to be around a long time has to renew itself. There has to be renovations, it has to update, and you can't just stay static and last forever. That doesn't work, especially in retail. So this is what is happening in Broadway Plaza now. Here's the new facility with the 2-story stores and the event plaza and the 5-level parking structure that everyone's saying, I hope we can find a space there the day before Christmas. And the promenade. So while the latest version, this version was being planned a few years ago, John King from the San Francisco Chronicle wrote, "From the day it opened in 1951, Walnut Creek's Broadway Plaza has embodied the evolving landscape of Bay Area suburbs. It debuted as a middle-class shops along new streets, parking lots on all sides, and by middle age, there were garages and a stylish Nordstrom. Now there is a glistening white Neiman Marcus and a proposed makeover." So he knew this was coming. We knew that this was going to happen, and it's a wonderful thing that it really is a brand new, sparkling, beautiful spot for everybody, and it should be good for another 30 years. So I say congratulations to everybody who had anything to do with it, and may you all shop till you drop. And we have Greg, and I think Tracy wanted to give a little speech now. She was saving for.
Those of you who know me, you all know how much I love to talk in public. But I will say something about this. This has been a huge project. I think October 18th was Broadway Plaza's 65th birthday. So obviously a facelift was needed, and one started in 2014, and it's still going on. Should be done by 2075, 2080. But just seeing if you're listening. But we're very proud of the big bulk of the project is done, and we're very proud of how it looks now, and people are really starting to comment on it about how much they like it. There were a ton of people involved. We have our architect, Phil Pioli, our construction, our development, our design teams, the property team, Greg Aguirre, my partner over there. He's not my my husband, but my partner at work, my work husband, but not, in a romantic way. But Greg is amazing, and Greg, really should be talking up here accepting, because Greg is the one that keeps Broadway Plaza, either in the past or the new Broadway Plaza, looking as good as it's done, as it does. He takes care of the landscaping, the operations, and just keeps it clean and looking great. And, we just all want to make sure that we keep the property viable and beautiful, and we're very proud of it, and we're glad the community is starting to be proud of it, and we just encourage you to shop. And the only reason why I didn't accept for Tesla, other than the fact that I had nothing to do with it, I probably would have promised everyone a free car, and then that would have been horrible. So, but we're really, this is a real honor. We're very appreciative, and we just want to thank everybody, and thank you for having us, and thank you for the award.
I test drove the Tesla recently, and although I was impressed with the acceleration, unless it had come equipped with a CD that sounded like a Ferrari, I was not in the market. Just no sound. I can't get that. We're going to go on to the People's Choice Awards. But before we do, I just want to comment briefly on something that Scott had alluded to about the renovation, the demolition and reconstruction of projects. Pam, you had an article with Art Gensler in the Walnut Creek Magazine. What issue was that? The current issue. Please read it. It's a great personal interview with Art Gensler and Deborah. And Deborah wrote it. But he talks about the notion that after 50 years, tear the building down, build a new one. Times have changed, you need to readapt. And I first kind of took that aback and realized that, that's right. This is no longer, our grandfather's pocket watch that we're just going to save and reuse. We have new technology and new appropriate development. Going on, speaking of Walnut Creek Magazine, who published the People's Choice Awards, we had more voting than we've had in the past this year because we've had 5 amazing public art projects to talk about. And we'll start with the Mallards Taking Flight, or people call it Flock of Ducks, on the Arroyo project by Lloyd LeBlanc of London, England. Now help me with the words. It's Lily. Thank you. Lily Ollies by Cliff Garton, and that's the Broadway Plaza Garage. Rar by Joyce Sue, Broadway Plaza. And Sparks by Linda Fleming at 1756 Cole. And Warming Up in Walnut Creek by Leo Barsamina at the Ascent in Walnut Creek. And after all the votes were counted, a clear winner of this year's People Choice for public art is Warming Up in Walnut Creek by Leo Barsamina. Leo, I know you're here somewhere, and maybe a representative from the Ascent. Thank you, man. Yeah, you bet. Say a word or two.
Wow, I'm humbly ill-prepared with words, but I definitely want to give some thanks out, first and foremost, to the city of Walnut Creek and the area. While not living here, I feel like I'm a community member in that I'm a full-time faculty at Diablo Valley College, so thank you so much. I also want to invite Steve up here from Mill Creek. He and I kind of went through this together. I would definitely say it's a collaboration between Mill Creek, the Planning Commission, the Art Commission, and it's always interesting to try to get your vision out while allowing for certain restrictions and accommodations, and I was worried that I would have to sort of give up on some of the inspiration and some of the thought that went into it, but I really, after working with this process, I'm actually very happy with the outcome, and I hope you guys enjoy it for a good many years to come. We designed it so that it would last a good many years, and I look forward to working in the future with the city as well. So through the school, we actually are building a new building as well for the art and design department, and it's important to, as a community, to support that. Their art and design and things of that nature are the reasons why we are, it keeps us human, right? And I think it's important to support that. And thanks again, Steve, and thank you all for this.
On behalf of Mill Creek, we'd like to thank the council. The public art is an election on the part of the developer. We can pay a fee or we can incorporate the art into it. We chose to, what I'll say, take the tough road. We're glad Leo didn't give up. We're very pleased with the outcome. Thank you very much.
And Joseph, as Mr. Gorney approaches the podium here, this is the word you've all been waiting for, and is our little custom. We need a drum roll on the tables. Yeah, they do whatever you tell them.
Okay, this is the Chrysanthemum Award, and it's not even an award that we award every year. And it really has to be a project that embodies all the things that we talked about with all the other words. And the next winner, I think, really needs no introduction because the developer of the project has been a cornerstone of development in Walnut Creek for many years. I think you'll all find, I find that his projects are really of the highest quality and they add texture to the downtown and have a street presence through the use of landscape, art, architecture, and really creative planning. His projects, this is a person that fights for what he believes in and what he believes is right, even when the system that we work in really doesn't know how to deal with innovation and change. And the project we have considered is, I think, really now a highlight of quality East Bay architecture. And I really find this building to be an experience more than just architecture. And if you haven't guessed yet, the project is 1500 Mount Diablo. The developer is Brian Hirahara of ABH Development and his team. This project was originally a parking lot. I'm sure everybody here remembers that, but it was a parking lot for a very long time. And it was conceived out of a limited competition that they had, where they had 3 projects come in, and they were all very good, very exceptional, very good architecture. And at the time, I really felt Brian's was the strongest. But the key to it is that the design process never stopped. I mean, Brian just kept pushing and pushing. And his team, Mark Davis, the architect, with Clay Haberman of Johnson Lyman, and really the person who was really driving the landscape architecture, Rick Dreimeyer. And they all really worked together to make a really outstanding project. And the thing I like about Brian is Brian agonizes over every detail. You know, the living wall, the metal on the side of the building, whether you could do imitation board form concrete, and the expense and time of doing that. The number of times he had to come back through Design Review Commission for a fairly small change. I'm not quite sure why we didn't have a subcommittee on this one, but we liked seeing Brian's renderings, and we liked seeing Brian at the meetings. And, he went through several times for what were fairly minor changes. And, if I do agree, I think the Slice House sign could have been a little taller. You were right. I was wrong. What else can I say about Brian? That he's on the board of Diablo Regional Arts Association, co-chair of On Broadway for 2 years with David Bowlby. Past chairman and member of Walnut Creek Downtown, and graduate of leadership Contra Costa. And he's somebody who likes to travel and through that traveling share new ideas. We talk about this a lot because we both like to travel. Family man with 2 girls, he has coaching duties, and his wife Lynn is here too, and he's a great husband. It was funny, I spoke the other day on the Krogan's project, and I said, I think Krogan should stay open, I should stay open later. And next morning I get a call from Brian, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. And he was calling me about the new Capital One Bank, and that they want to do a really good parklet out in front. And Brian's been one of those people that's really driving the parklets downtown, trying to get a great street presence, and I really appreciate everything he brings. He's brought us Sasa, Vada V, the Apple Store, Rooftop, Teleferic, Tiffany's, Oak Alley. The list goes on, and it's not going to end for a while. And it's funny, I don't know anybody who really works as hard as Brian does to improve downtown Walnut Creek. I was thinking him as, like this morning I woke up and I'm thinking, oh, he's like the mayor of downtown, but I don't think Brian would want to be the mayor. That's too political. And so, I'm looking at other words, generalissimo, mentor, shepherd, skipper, tyrant, prolocutor, sensei, patriarch, ambassador, elder, he wouldn't like that, doyen, shabdrung. Really the list goes on. But I'm really proud to present Action for Beauty's Ultimate Award, the Chrysanthemum, to my friend, Brian Hirahara. A big round of applause to the best friend of downtown Walnut Creek.
Wow, I'm kind of speechless. Didn't mean that to be a big commercial for me. But thank you very much, Joseph. My wife Lynn is here, and she'll be relieved to know that I am not running for mayor. I guess I'd start off with the fact that I'd like to thank the City of Walnut Creek and the City Council. The backdrop of the design was that it was, as Joseph mentioned, a very competitive process. It was an RFP. And so we did get selected, and again, it's all about our team. But I remember telling our team, look, there's a lot of responsibility with this being awarded this project, because it is a key corner in the downtown, and we have a responsibility because we said we're going to really push the envelope on the design. So There's no stucco in the building, not a square foot of it. A lot of very expensive materials and interesting things. And as Mr. Gensler mentioned, I think we're becoming a more urbanized environment, so that's evidenced by the rooftop and living wall and some other elements that were pretty risky. And knock on wood, so far the living wall and the living roof are still alive. But from the city side, we were very appreciative to be selected. We were not the highest offer in terms of dollars on the project, so we felt that we more than put those dollars that were left on the table in the design, so that was part of that responsibility. Since they're here, I'd also like to thank Sandy Meyer, who was instrumental in, from the city side, Ethan Bindernagel, who was such a good planner that he got promoted, unfortunately, to Economic Development Director. And of course, our team, as mentioned, Mark Davis Design, just did an incredible job. Just so many of the elements were his signature. Clay Haberman of Johnson Lyman Architects. It's interesting because I remember when designing it, many times we would look at it and say, my gosh, are we seeing, we got to step back because it looks like a 40,000 square foot building. It's about 5,000 on a floor plate, so it's a little bigger than Tommy Bahama, but it has a lot of frontage. So it was deceiving, and we kept, are we overdoing it? Are we want to look Disney-like? But ultimately, and we said to the city, if we were smart, we would put a two-story retailer on there, walk away and be done. A lot simpler, a lot easier. It happens to be our passion to bring new food, restaurant options, so we got really fortunate with our tenants, authentic Spanish tapas restaurant from Spain. I don't know what I was thinking because I went on a low-carb diet 2 weeks before Slice House opened, and my office is right across the street, so it wasn't too smart. David Bowlby is also part of our team. I want to acknowledge him. John Kumbelich, that's the third way you've heard it pronounced. That's the correct way. It's part of it was our leasing agent on the project. And of course, my wife Lynn, when I'm developing a project, it takes over my life and my mind, and she's put up with the pillow talks and waking up in the middle of the night and running. She's an architectural engineer by education, so we have a lot of talks about the concepts and everything, but ultimately it really is about the team. I just come in there and kind of direct people, and but it's been a lot of work over 4 years, but the fact that we're receiving this award is evidence that it was worth it all. And I do just want to recognize Joseph because when we went through Design Review Commission some 15 years ago for the corners across the street with Tiffany and Apple, I remember we were originally going to be the smart or greedy developer and chop down that oak tree and build a parking structure because you need a parking structure in suburbia, which is changing. And I remember Joseph said, and I used to have a cassette tape that had this on there, but I don't have a cassette player anymore. And it said, Joseph said, you need, if you're going to chop down this tree, you need to give back to the street. And I remember sitting there going, what do you mean give back to the street? And as we've evolved as a business, that's kind of a foundation of what we try to do is give back to the street, from the streetscape to art, bike racks, landscaping, et cetera. And I think that does make our downtown and our city better, and that's why I commend this award luncheon and the awards to acknowledge projects that do that, to make our town a little bit better, a little more enjoyable, and not just somewhere where people shop. So again, I'm humbled and honored. I'm sure there's other people that I should recognize, but as Dan mentioned earlier, I could look around the entire room and there are people that have been involved at different levels. So thank you so much. And it's just an honor and a privilege to be a part of this town and to build projects here. Thank you.
One additional thing we do with the Chrysanthemum Award is we have this brass plaque. We have one already. It happens to be on one of Brian's projects at Sasa Restaurant. But I think if you keep building with this sort of high quality design, we'll give you the dimensions of this and you can kind of design it into that. There you go. All right, you betcha. Before we close, I want to once again thank our sponsors, Hall Equities, John Kumbelich. Thank you. Heritage Point and Trellis by Pulte Homes. I want to extend a great amount of appreciation to Art Gensler for gracing us with some wonderful dialogue today. Of course, to all of you, and if there are any young 32-year-old aggressive architects that want to start working with the ABC and join our fun, we'd love to have you. See me after this, and you could join our first breakfast meeting where we kind of debrief what happened here, look forward for next year, and we hope that will happen with some of you. Again, congratulate all the nominees, the awards winner, and we'll see you back here next year in 2017.